Good morning, members. We will open up our hearing, Housing and Community Development Committee hearing today, and begin as a subcommittee due to lack of members being here. Assemblymember Fuentes, you're first.
Very good. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for facilitating my presentation this morning so that I may begin the Appropriations Committee momentarily. AB 208 is a bipartisan measure that will assist California's economy by extending the expiration date of existing tentative tract maps and parcel maps for an additional 24 months. This bill comes on the heels of Assembly Bill 333, a bill that I authored in 2009 that also provided a 24-month extension for expiring maps. That bill received no opposition and was subsequently signed by the governor. Without legislative action this year, approximately 2,500 active tentative maps representing nearly 330,000 housing units, thousands of construction-related jobs, and the numerous economic benefits associated with them would be in jeopardy as tentative maps would begin to expire in mid-July of this year. Extending tentative and parcel map timelines ensures that critical construction projects in the queue can still move forward without having to unnecessarily re-entitle a previously approved project. As many of you who served in local government know, it's a process that can take years and significant financing to complete. The bill before you today will provide that very same extension. This bill is supported by a coalition of groups, and today I do have people in support of the bill that would like to testify with this measure, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote and take the suggested technical amendments in your analysis.
Okay. And witnesses in support?
Good morning. Richard Lyon on behalf of the California Building Industry Association. We're here in strong support of Mr. Fuentes' effort. The velocity of new home construction in terms of numbers is at all-time lows. We expect, based upon our guesstimation, that significant construction won't begin to pick up until the 13-14 cycle at best. This bill, as Mr. Fuentes said, extends the maps that are out there for 24 months. This is important for projects. It's important for jobs. It's important because investments have been made out there, and we don't want them to be stranded. Very critical bill for housing. Doesn't cost the state a thing. We encourage your support.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support?
Good morning. Elizabeth Gavrick with the California Association of Realtors, and for the reasons already stated, we are also in strong support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, Steve Carlson for the Apartment Associations of Greater Los Angeles, San Diego, and Santa Barbara. The apartment industry and the apartment development industry has certainly not been immune from the recession as well, and I think that this is an extremely important bill with projects that are in the pipeline that when the economy starts to move back, that they're ready to go without having to go back and get re-entitled, so we strongly support this measure.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? Any witnesses in opposition? Do you care to close?
Again, respectfully ask for an aye vote, and thank you for allowing me to proceed first.
Okay. Thank you. We will move forward and establish a quorum. I think we have enough folks to do that.
Torres?
Present.
Atkins? Here. Bradford? Here. Cedillo? Waso? Jeffries? Here. Miller?
Okay, we have a quorum. Okay. The item has been moved and second. Madam Secretary?
The motions do pass as amended to appropriations. Torres?
Aye.
Torres, aye. Atkins? Aye. Atkins, aye. Bradford? Aye. Bradford, aye. Cedillo? Waso? Jeffries?
Aye.
Jeffries, aye. Miller? The vote is 4-0.
Okay, vote is 4-0. We'll leave the item also open for the rest of the members to add on. But, okay. Before we bring up item number 2, Assemblymember Carter, members, I would ask that we take up the rules, to adopt the rules. So moved. Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the committee rules.
Torres?
Aye.
Torres, aye. Atkins? Atkins, aye. Bradford? Bradford, aye. Cedillo? Waso? Jeffries?
Aye.
Jeffries, aye. Miller? The vote is 4-0 to adopt it.
Okay, if we've adopted the rules, vote is 4-0. We'll also leave that item open for any additions. We'll move on to item number 2, Assemblymember Carter.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. Assembly Bill 221 helps to advance two policy goals. One, provide housing for the homeless. Two, put current bond dollars for work on shovel-ready projects. For various reasons, money from the Emergency Housing and Assistance Program remains available for allocation. This program provides funding for just the construction and rehabilitation of emergency shelters. On the other hand, the Multifamily Housing Supportive Housing Bond Program has a limited amount of funding remaining. It is in very high demand with many worthy and ready-to-go projects in need of funding. This program funds projects that provide housing for the homeless and supportive services under one roof. AB 221 will provide a flexible tool to the California Department of Housing and Community Development to be able to expend the remaining funds from the Emergency Housing Assistance Program to respond, if needed, to changes in the state's housing need. This bill does not require HCD to shift funds from one group to another. It simply gives the department the discretion to make funding available where it is most needed. This bill was introduced last year as AB 2536 and went through the legislature without any no votes, but was included in the governor's blanket vetoes.
I move approval.
With me today in support of AB 221 is Mr. Zach Olmstead, Homeless Policy Director with Housing California, and I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Okay, the bill has been moved in second. Witnesses in support?
Zach Olmstead, Housing California. Just very briefly, since the passage of our bonds, the strategies and how we address homelessness have also evolved, over the last decade. And permanent supportive housing is a strategy that many communities use in addition to shelters to address chronic homelessness. It's a very proven method. This bill just simply expands eligibility to allow communities to choose how they want to address how they serve homeless persons. And certainly many communities in our state are choosing permanent supportive housing as a very integral part of their planning process and how they serve. It creates permanent housing. It solves homelessness rather than manages it. And so this bill just expands eligibility. We think it's right in line with what communities want to do, and we ask for your support.
Any other witnesses in support?
Sharon Report, Corporation for Supportive Housing, and for all the reasons mentioned, we're in support of the bill as well.
Okay, any other witnesses in support? Witnesses in opposition?
Hi, my name is Tara Shabazz. I'm Executive Director of the California Partnership to End Domestic Violence. And originally we put forward a support and hope that there would be some amendments that would clarify that this money is also eligible for domestic violence shelter programs and to ensure that domestic violence shelter programs are able to compete with multi-housing programs. And unfortunately, we weren't able to come to an agreement at this time. The California Partnership, we represent nearly 200 domestic violence emergency shelter service providers and advocates. Our member agencies serve over 100,000 domestic violence victims every year. Proposition 46 and 1C were specifically passed to support battered women's shelters as well as other housing programs. And the emergency housing program was developed specifically for emergency housing and transitional housing program. There was a multi-housing program that was also developed to support multi-housing, and those two programs were separate for very specific reasons. And one reason is to ensure that emergency shelters and domestic violence shelters are able to access this funding. So our fear is that by opening it up, it decreases the opportunities for domestic violence shelters, who are mainly nonprofit organizations, having to compete with multi-housing programs. And although this gives flexibility to the housing and community development, we're concerned that there's nothing in place that would make sure that not all $19 million goes to those very strong programs that have very good resources to write very successful grant applications. And so we would like to see an amendment that, and continue to work with the author, and see an amendment that is able to really specify that not all this $19 million can go to one program over another, and that there is some kind of set aside or some kind of funding formula similar to what happens at the federal level with HUD funding. They're moving towards rapid rehousing, but they're still carving out specific funding for emergency shelter programs, and we really think that California should continue in that same process as well.
And I understand that the author has committed to working with you. Domestic violence, obviously, is a very important issue in our communities, and we want to make sure that we move to continue to support those programs. However, carving out, a special amount, you even said it yourself that it's not good that all 19, the entire pot should go to one program or another. Competition always makes things better. So the author has committed, Ms. Carter, correct, to continue working with them. Great. Any other witnesses in opposition? No? Would you care to close?
I respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Okay, the bill has been moved and second to appropriations. Madam Chair?
The motions do pass to appropriations. Torres?
Aye.
Torres, aye. Atkins? Atkins, aye. Bradford? Bradford, aye. Cedillo? Hueso? Hueso, aye. Jeffries? Jeffries, aye. Miller? Miller, aye. The vote is 6-0.
Your bill is out with a vote 6-0. Thank you.
So much. Thank you.
Mr. Amiano, you're next.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members. Thank you for the opportunity to present AB 683 regarding a statewide homeless data warehouse. AB 683 would require the Department of Housing and Community Development to create a statewide homeless management information system to compile data throughout California for the purpose of developing a composite portrayal of the homeless population in the state, as well as services currently provided to people who are homeless. California has the highest number of people experiencing homelessness in the country. 1 in 95 Californians will experience homelessness throughout the course of a single year. Homelessness is traumatic for those who suffer it, often leading to separated families. Exacerbation of health conditions, a rise in affordable emergency room use, social and academic delays among children, and higher rates of foster care, greater likelihood of incarceration. Provided funding is available, the state could use a data warehousing system to determine cost of services the state now provides to homeless persons. And I thank you very much and would respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Okay, the bill has been moved in second. Any witnesses in support?
Sharon Report with the Corporation for Supportive Housing. As the Assemblyman said, we know California has the largest homeless population in the country, but we have little data about this population. And so the bill, provided federal and private funds are available, 683 would create an integrated data system or data warehouse that would allow the state to access and analyze data about Californians experiencing homelessness. Federal funds are available for a lot of the purposes that the Assemblyman discussed. The data warehouse would be used to determine what services homeless persons receive, and in so doing would answer critical policy and programmatic questions of what works for whom and at what cost. A data warehouse can also reduce state costs in administering programs for federal agencies. Just to name a few, California now prepares individual reports for runaway and emancipated youth, homeless prevention and rapid rehousing, and housing for persons with AIDS. All of these programs are very costly to run reports and submit those reports to the federal government. A data warehouse could run these reports at a fraction of the costs. Police departments in New York City and Baltimore have used data warehouses to analyze crime statistics and have credited them with reducing crime. And Michigan's homeless data warehouse has been credited with improved health, housing, and cost outcomes among their homeless population. A survey of 8 agencies administering data warehouses across the country concluded these agencies gained profound benefits from data systems. The state is in the best position to act as the lead agency for creating this data warehouse in California, since it can access data from multiple state agencies and can benefit from running these reports at the state level. For these reasons, we're sponsoring 683 and ask for your aye vote.
Any other witnesses in support?
Greg DeGier with the ARC and United Cerebral Palsy of California Advocates for people with intellectual and all developmental disabilities and their families. We support the bill. We think that better data will show that well over half of homeless people have disabilities of some sort, cognitive, physical, and are in need of special services that they're not getting. So we support the bill.
Okay. Any other witnesses in support? Any witnesses in opposition? Okay, seeing none, the bill has been moved in second. Assemblymember Hueso?
Just very briefly, I want to commend the author for bringing this bill forward. This is a very long-awaited way to treat this problem. And if you're, I know it's a little late in the process, but if you're looking for co-authors, I'd be interested in co-authoring.
More than
this
welcome.
bill.
Thank you.
Councilmember Atkins.
Thank you. I also want to thank you for bringing this forward. In my work in San Diego, we have a leadership team, and this was one of the barriers and challenges we highlighted as a means to trying to coordinate data amongst entities. And if the state were to do this, it would be incredible. So I commend you, and I would also be honored to be a co-author if possible.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Two quick questions, and then I'm inclined to support it. I'm just curious. The state adopted a 10-year plan last year, and I'm just curious how this either supplements that or overlaps that, or is it duplicative? How is it different than the 10-year plan that we adopted last year? And two, you mentioned federal funding, but I'm curious: is it Prop 1C bond housing money, or where? How does the funding actually work?
So in answer to your first question, part of the plan did include a goal to create a data warehouse. This bill just puts more meat on the bones and takes a step further in actually creating the
Complementary.
warehouse. Exactly. For federal funds, there's actually technical assistance appropriation every year that Congress passes, and this for HUD, and this would be under that technical assistance grant. It's provided to contractors throughout the country. I think there are about 3 or 4 contractors that do this type of work, and the contractors decide who they're going to assist, and they have already committed to helping California if we decided to pursue this.
Do you know the amount? Is it in the hundreds of thousands? Is it in the millions? I'm just curious the scope and size of how large it is.
For how much it would cost to create this warehouse, or how much the federal?
The funding.
So the other agencies that have created a data warehouse have spent anywhere from $100,000 to $800,000 in creating their warehouse. I don't know the amount of federal technical assistance. It would not cover that entire amount. We are trying to come up with some foundation funding that would cover the rest. The federal technical assistance covers every aspect except for the actual hardware for the data system. So that's the funding that we'd have to make up for. But the bill does rely on existence of non-state funding to create the warehouse, so it wouldn't actually put any requirements on the state unless we could come up with the funding to create it.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the money is not coming directly to the state.
That's correct.
Ms. Atkins?
I was just going to say, this is part of the national plan to end chronic homelessness, so their goal is to have California be a large player. So we would compete very well, I think, for those federal monies because California has the highest population of homeless individuals. So
and the continuum of care.
Right, and the continuum of care. So I think the federal government looks at us in a way of that we hope you move forward with this because it helps us in our plan nationally to end chronic homelessness and gives us some tools. So I think they're integrated.
Okay, the motion is due pass to BMP committee.
Torres?
Aye.
Torres, aye. Atkins? Atkins, aye. Bradford? Bradford, aye. Cedillo? Cedillo, aye. Hueso? Hueso, aye. Jeffries?
Aye.
Jeffries, aye. Miller? Miller, aye. The vote is 7-0.
Your bill is out 7-0, and I would also like to be included in co-authoring this very, very important measure. Thank you for presenting this.
Thank you all.
Okay, the next item up will be Chairwoman Torres on AB 483.
I'm always down for a fight.
Move the bill.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ms. Torres, do you want to introduce your bill?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair and members. I do appreciate the motion to move my bill forward. I want to tell you a little bit about this very important program. The multifamily housing program funds development of housing affordable to low-income Californians. The supportive housing component of MHP is intended to fund housing for those who are chronically homeless or at risk of chronic homelessness. These are folks who require supportive services in order to remain stably housed. Unfortunately, under current program regulations, the MHP-SH program targets the chronically homeless as well as those who have low incomes but may not actually need supportive services in order to remain housed. My bill, Assembly Bill 483, changes the definition of target population for purposes of MHP-SH to ensure that funded units are occupied by those who need supportive services. The state has very limited resources to fund supportive housing, and those limited resources should be targeted toward those who would not succeed in affordable housing without services. I respectfully ask for your support.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In support?
Yeah.
Good morning again. This is Sharon Report again, Corporation for Supportive Housing. As the Assemblywoman said, in 2002 and 2006, voters passed bond funding for the multifamily housing program for supportive housing. And voters cited reducing homelessness as one of the primary reasons for passing those bond measures. Services in supportive housing allow chronically homeless individuals to remain stably housed. Chronically homeless people tend to use public systems like hospitals, prisons, and jails frequently and die on average 25 to 30 years younger than housed individuals. Multiple studies show supportive housing significantly improves health and mortality outcomes for chronically homeless people while reducing public costs of homelessness. The statute that created the program, as Assemblywoman Torres said, allows projects to target and serve people who are at risk of homelessness, and that definition is very broad. As a result, a lot of projects have been created for people who are low income or disabled, many of whom would probably never become homeless without supportive housing. While people in the at-risk category most likely need affordable housing, they do not need supportive housing. And as a result, fewer dollars are available for supportive housing that targets California's most vulnerable populations. For example, though homeless veterans tend to be chronically homeless, they are vastly underserved by the MHP supportive housing program. AB 483 would narrow the definition of target population and would benefit those who would most benefit from supportive housing, and therefore we are supporting this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in support?
Zach Olmsted with Housing California. We're also in support of this measure.
Thank you. Anyone in opposition? Okay, seeing no opposition, would you like to close?
I respectfully ask for your support.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. You can call the roll.
The motions do pass. Atkins?
Aye.
Atkins, aye. Bradford? Aye. Bradford, aye. Cedillo?
Aye.
Cedillo, aye. Waso? Waso, aye. Jeffries?
Aye.
Jeffries, aye. Miller?
Aye.
Miller, aye. Torres?
Aye.
Torres, aye. The vote is 7-0.
7-0. Thank you. Do you want to do your other two?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Currently, there are 8 million and growing homeowners living in common interest development, also known as CIDs. The Davis-Sterling Act, the state law governing CIDs, has been amended many, many times since it was enacted, and is confusing and difficult to navigate. Over the last 4 years, the California Law Revision Commission has studied and reviewed the law and has recommended the Davis-Sterling Act be reorganized into a more logical and user-friendly order.
Move the bill. Second.
Okay.
Assembly Bill 805 implements those recommendations. I ask for your support.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Anyone here in support?
Madam Vice Chair, members, I'm Brian Hebert. I'm the Executive Director of the California Law Revision Commission. I'm just here to help answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Others in support?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Carrie Mazzoni for the Executive Council of Homeowners in support.
Okay. Anyone in opposition? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Comments or questions from the committee? Seeing none, we can call the roll.
The motions do pass to Judiciary. Atkins.
Aye.
Atkins, aye. Bradford. Bradford, aye. Cedillo. Cedillo, aye. Waso. Waso, aye. Jeffries.
Aye.
Jeffries, aye. Miller. Miller, aye. Torres.
Aye.
Torres, aye.
Okay, so that passes 7-0. Would you like to go on to 806?
Absolutely. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Assembly Bill 806 is the companion
Move
bill.
the bill.
Thank you. As a companion
Motion
bill,
and a second.
I ask for your support.
Let me, just for the record, anyone in support?
The same as for 805. Thank you.
Thank
Same
you.
with me.
You recognize a good thing. Anyone in opposition? Seeing none and no comments or questions from the committee, call the roll.
The motions do pass to Judiciary. Atkins.
Aye.
Atkins, aye. Bradford. Bradford, aye. Cedillo. Cedillo, aye. Waso. Waso, aye. Jeffries.
Aye.
Jeffries, aye. Miller. Miller, aye. Torres.
Aye.
Torres, aye.
So the vote is 7-0, and I will turn it back over to you, Madam Chair,
Thank you.
for the last bill. Maybe we can, oh, it got pulled? Oh, I guess I'm turning it back over to you to. Oh, we do need to.
Thank you, members. That is the completion of our committee hearing. We will leave the roll open for other members to come and add on. Thank you very much for being here, and thank you all.